to News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at the Sawe Kanda in Accra. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7, and around the world you can follow our live stream on our Facebook page. I am Stephen Enti. Let me first take you through the day's news highlights. Officials of Perfect Business Solutions, the representatives of the Malaysian company which installed the SNIT OBS software, say officers of UOCO have visited their office and have taken away some documents. TV3 is learning Perfect Business Solution is under investigations over the $72 million software contract. Trades Unions Congress has thrown its weight behind the forensic audit into how SNIT used $74 million to purchase the Operational Business Suite OBS software. At an emergency steering committee meeting in Accra, the Congress promised to push for the prosecution of those who will be implicated in the investigations. Childrise International, a non-governmental organization, has threatened to sue individuals or groups of persons who make mockery of children through releasing their images and videos on social media. The NGO wants the National Communications Authority and the police service to track perpetrators and prosecute them. And the authorities in Niger have ordered thousands of people to leave their homes in the capital, Niamey. Because of serious flooding, many are sheltering in schools, while others have nowhere to go. More than 40 people have died since the rainy season began in June. Those were our major news highlights. Remember, we're streaming live on our Facebook page and you can hear us on 3FM 92.7. Up next is the big one. Right, welcome back now. The Deputy Agricultural Minister, William Kwetu, has resigned. His resignation address to the President was confirmed by the Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahen. The resignation comes days after he was accused of making ethnocentric comments against people from the North. Despite issuing a public apology, the minority in Parliament called for his dismissal by President Akufo-Addo to send a strong signal to his appointees that such comments will not be countenanced. The presidential staffer, Clara Napagatia Sulemana, also waded into the controversy over the tribal comments, demanding more than apology. The Deputy Minister for Agriculture, William Kwetu, denigrated the people of the northern Ghana with his utterances during a recent interview on an Accra-based radio station, for which he rendered an apology. Right, Alhaji ABA Fuseni is the Member of Parliament for Sanerugu in the Northern region, and he's joining me in the studio now for more on this issue. Honourable, we're grateful that you could join us. How are you, sir?
Great, my brother.
Great.
Thanks for TV3, all your viewers.
Thank you. Now, the Deputy Minister has apologized, and now he has resigned. That should end the matter. Are you happy?
Thank you very much, and let me say a good evening to all your viewers across the world. My brother, if you have your annual tactic of cotton wool, you don't jump over fire. the deputy minister, unfortunately in this case, jumped over a bonfire. And for many of us, it was inexorable that this would be the conclusion. And for me, this is a very important lesson for public office holders. That we hold office, public office, on the trust of the people. And that we ought to treat the people with decorum and respect and eschew arrogance.
You think he failed in all of these?
It was clear. You can tell a ripe corn by its look. I'm sure you could if you listen to the tenor of the statement, you were left in no doubt.
But I am concerned that the minority wanted him to be sacked. I mean, nonetheless, he apologized and he has resigned. You think there should have been more done to it by the president rather than just accept his resignation?
Yeah, the bigger one would have been the president firing him to send a bigger lesson. But if you read our statement, we indicated that he himself must avail himself of the opportunity to resign even before he's pushed. And so if he's taking the first step to exit office, we think that is enough.
You think it's dignifying?
It can assuage the head feelings partly of the good people of this country. You see, and my brother, let's look at the gravity of the offensive statement. This was a minister of state who, responding to the legitimate grievances of farmers. The farmers in the northern part of this country were just
complaining. They're not just farmers, they're people he directly had responsibility over.
Exactly. And these are people you are put in public office to superintend, to ensure that you become a point of contact in government for addressing their legitimate issues and concerns. And so if they make they lament that the fall army worms have devastated their farms, who else should attend to them more than you? And so you should have had the opportunity to attend to them in a very civil manner, to tell them what government had. And if there was no compensation for them, it was only fair for you to say, oh, maybe within the constraints of our finances, there is no opportunity for government for now to give you any compensation. But to resort to that bellicose language, that very abrasive language, that ethnocentric bigotry, to tell them that there are a bunch of people who are unreasonable, they are difficult people, there are people who have a penchant for
lies,
telling lies, making fraudulent schemes in order to defraud government and loot state resources.
In order to benefit
from
those lies
with this very unsavory language.
You think that's it's very unpardonable?
And
that there could have been a harsher punishment. There could have been a harsher punishment than him resigning.
Even before he was fired, before he resigned, people thought the president should have fired him to send a bigger signal to appointees that public office is not for people to come and showcase their arrogance.
There are also those who feel that the president at least should have made a comment on this, condemning it. Are you disappointed that so far there not being a public
that is why many people would have expected from within government a very strong statement to come out to indicate that government would not take these kinds of arrogance from its ministers, its public appointees, because they are there to serve the people. They are there to ensure that government's agenda of improving life for the good people of this country, on whose backs they rode to power, it's a sine qua non for their continuation in government.
Who voted for them?
Exactly. So I thought that signal would have been even serve a better purpose.
Honorable, before we continue, I need to put on record that there have been a couple of resignations. When we look at this resignation, it's just the first really under the NPP administration. But under the previous administration, somebody like Jifar Tivo resigned over the bus branding saga. Muntaka Mubarak, I recall, was sacked from the sports ministry over the famous Chinchinga saga. And Victoria Hammer, I'm sure you would remember that Victoria Hammer was sacked over a video conversation over a $1 million ambition. I mean, her audio conversation over a 1 million ambition she expressed. And then there is also the other one of Dr. Kwabena Donko, who actually said he will resign if he doesn't solve the energy crisis. He did go ahead to resign. And there are also the other one of someone like Elvis Afriankra, who was not dismissed but reassigned to the Flagstaff Owls over his role in the Brazil 2014 World Cup, flying money to the place, etc. So, Honorable, I went through these narratives so we can put it in perspective, that it won't be the first time a government appointee has resigned. But moving forward, what are your expectations, the minority in parliament, your expectations on how government appointees should be conducting themselves so that those who voted for them would not feel slighted for voting these people into power?
Yeah, my brother, first and foremost, let me salute the tenacity of purpose. Not just of the minority took a role, our minority leader, Honorable Haruna Iddrisu. This is eloquent commentary on his competence. But I want to salute some very important people who contributed to getting us to where we have arrived today with the resignation of the minister. And as I've said, it was not a partisan matter. And I salute one of the princes of Dagbon, Napara Tia Sulemana. I think she works at the Flagstaff House.
She's a presidential staffer.
Presidential staffer. She's a very diligent young princess of Dagbon. And I salute her for the role she played in this matter. And to anchor it on the pedestal that this is beyond party politics. That when you insult the sensibilities of a people, irrespective of your political affiliation, and the closeness of of her as an ally in the same political party,
we are showing
you will not,
on our screens.
Exactly.
Now,
you will not take that. So I salute her.
You think she played a major role?
Positive stance on matters like this. And this is how our democracy is going forward. And I have said that our democracy will even be stronger if in our own parties we can send the signal to people who err so grievously to the point that they can compromise the peace, order, and stability of this nation. This statement had the potential to cause a very serious destabilization of our peace. And so if all of us can stand and look at this statement without any partisan lenses and ensure that the right thing is done, I'm sure that we'll further
there are those also who say that this is actually an indication that the dead goat syndrome has been exterminated. Do you see this as a no-nonsense approach to anything dead goat syndrome?
No, I thought that if, for instance, if it had been the president who fired him,
then you would say that the dead goat syndrome is exterminated.
But this one, the president did not fire him.
There is still the subtle dead
And I thought that because of the gravity of the issue, the president should have fired him. And a statement issued to show the revulsion of His Excellency the President against that ethnocentric bigotry, so that it will send a direct signal to the rest of the ministers that when the landlord has read the Riot Act, it is only a foolhardy tenant who will disobey.
And
so it would have been abundantly clear to everybody that this is the issue. Because like I've said, the Dagombers have been saying that even though the bird flies in the air, its FINA is performed on the ground. To have heard the sensibilities of millions of people across the three northern regions. And when you say the three northern regions, we are not talking about the northern upper east, upper west. But you are talking of millions of other people from the three northern regions in the diaspora, in the other regions.
Yeah.
So we are talking about a huge constituency. So you need to send a signal to that constituency. And that is why I thought a statement from government, even perhaps from the president, would have been more appropriate now, to accompany this, so that nobody will be left in any doubt that anybody who attempted to make such statement
will not be countenanced.
You will not get any briefing space. 1 hour.
I know that at the heart of all of these were the sentiments of a cross-section of Ghanaians who came out strongly to condemn this. Year on, we're seeing the indications that Ghanaians are becoming more and more discerning and are no longer tolerant to some of these things. So is this something that is a happy thing for us to celebrate with the growth of our democracy?
I think it's a very good thing for our democratic process. His Excellency the President, at his induction ceremony at the Independence Square, called on Ghanaians not to be spectators,
to be citizens,
but to be active citizens.
And exactly what they're doing.
I'm sure that Ghanaians already, I can tell you with the further maturation of our democratic process, Ghanaians are now up and doing. And I'm sure they are going to hold the feet of government to the fire of accountability.
I like
and
that.
ensure that at all times, in conformity with their wishes and aspirations, government will work in tandem with that and also ensure that their legitimate rights, interests, and aspirations will not be betrayed by government.
Honorable Ebi Fuseni, we're grateful that you made time to come. We're grateful that you came through to answer all the questions.
Thank you very much. And let me also commend TV3, because in the process of getting us to where we have gotten today, your station played a very crucial role. And I'm sure that we can continue to be partners in ensuring that our democratic process is further enhanced, and for government to live up to the expectations of the good people of this country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is still news at 10 on TV3. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7, and we're streaming live on our Facebook page. As you heard, the Deputy Agric Minister, Emmanuel Kwetu, has resigned, and his resignation addressed to the President was confirmed by the Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahin. I'm Stephen Enti. We have more news for you. Please stay. Welcome back. Now, there is a growing need for a redefinition of the concept of leadership in Africa, and to also inculcate same into the national values of African states through a new curriculum of education from the basic level through to all levels of the educational system. And every discussion on the development of Africa, the issue of leadership has become topmost. The new concept of leadership, however, is what Live to Lead is championing at its annual program, CTL Africa, in partnership with John Maxwell, and they're bringing this to Ghana. This is scheduled for October 6th in Accra, and it is to help inculcate this type of leadership in young people. And I have with me in the studio the CEO of Africa, CTL Africa, Samuel Yim, joining me for a discussion on this. Mr. Yim, nice to have you. Exactly what is this fundamental problem about African leadership you refer to?
Thank you, Steve, and good evening to your viewers. I think, as you just said, in every discussion we have, everybody identifies leadership as a problem. And it's become more like a cliche that people refer to Malaysia, Singapore, and say, look, because of leadership, things have gone well, compare us. And my point is that if we know that leadership is an issue in Africa.
What really? I mean, what we want to know is that what aspect of the leadership becomes a challenge on the African continent?
The aspect of the problem is that is the concept itself of what leadership is. Our concept of leadership has been that it's somebody at the top. Leaders must be at a certain position, and leadership is for me. And once I attain that position, it's me, my pride, and everybody should come and kowtow to me.
And nobody can be better
and
than
nobody
me
can be better than
that.
That kind of leadership, if that is our understanding, is wrong. What we are saying is that the true concept of leadership is for people to understand that leadership is service. Leadership is your ability to influence positive change in the people. If we understand this new concept of leadership, it will change the way our so-called leaders relate to us. And it will also help all of us to understand that every one of us is a leader.
Is a leader. But Mr. Yim, there is also the growing concern of greed among African leaders, which appears to have creeped into the leadership of Africa. So we hear, as a result of that, we hear stories of dictatorship, etc., etc. What should citizens be demanding of their leaders to make sure these tendencies of dictatorship does not continue to erode the goodness that we expect to get from our leaders in Africa?
Yeah, the problem of greed, of dictatorship,